Hi guys, you have heard of the CIA triad, the AAA model, and now it's time to level up your cybersecurity game. In this video, we are tackling the defense in depth, least privilege access, and the zero trust architecture. Three important concepts in cybersecurity to build an unbreakable defense system. You can implement this to improve your organization's security, so let's just dive in. Number one is defense in depth. Defense in depth is a cybersecurity strategy where we apply multiple layers of security to protect the system and data. Instead of relying on a single defense mechanism, multiple controls are implemented at different levels to make it harder for the attacker to compromise the system. The idea is, even if the one layer of security is compromised, the others are in place to detect, mitigate, or stop the attack, providing redundancy. Key layers of defense in depth includes: first, physical security. The physical security about the security of your hardware, your servers, and your building. Second, network security. It is about implementation of your IDS, IPS systems, firewalls, and a secure network architecture. Third is endpoint security. Endpoint security is about protecting your end devices like your smartphones, laptops, computers by applying or using the antiviruses, patches, and the proper configurations. Fourth, application security. We make sure to protect our softwares and applications from different vulnerabilities like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and more. At fifth, we have the data security. It is about protecting your data by encrypting it in transit and at rest. Sixth, IAM, or the Identity and Access Management. It is about implementing the strong authentication and authorization procedures like multi-factor authentication. And seventh, monitoring and response. Continuous monitoring for the malicious activities and having our incident response plan in place. We can think of castle defense system as an example of this defense in-depth approach. Let's say we have a moat outside the castle representing the firewalls and the perimeter security and preventing the attacker from approaching the castle. Outer walls, similar to physical security controls like secure doors or surveillance cameras, prevent the unauthorized physical access. After the outer walls comes the inner walls. These are just like network security system and application design systems, which are more enhancing our security. Then we have the guards and lookouts. They are just like the monitoring and alert systems, which will alert you at the time of any suspicious activity before a breach happens. And then comes the walls and locks. These are just like the encryption systems that even if the attacker enters into the castle, he won't be able to access any valuable assets. By applying the concept of defense in depth, an organization enhances its security overall and also makes sure that there is no point or no single point of failure that could be compromised and the whole security system would go down. Coming to the principle of least privilege access, it is about giving the minimum access controls to the users. The user must know only what they are authorized to. Other than that, they should not have any access beyond that. Basically, the job or the task that they have to do, they should get the access for that only. The goal is to limit the access to sensitive data and systems to minimize the attack surface in case of the credentials or accounts are compromised. The main four key aspects of the least privilege access principle are: number one is role-based access control. We assign the permissions based on the roles and responsibility of a person so that they can do the particular jobs that is assigned to them but cannot access any further. Number two, just-in-time access. Temporarily giving the escalated privileges to an employee to perform some additional responsibilities and making sure that he doesn't get the privileged access for the persistence time. Number three, segmentation of duties. Making sure that no single person in the organization have access to everything. For example, the system admin should not have access to the financial records and vice versa. Number four, regular audits and reviews. Continuously checking the given accesses and privileges to the employees, revoking any unnecessary access or outdated privileges. Let's take an example of a restaurant. Let's say you run a very busy restaurant where we have chef, waiters, cleaning staff, and the cashier. Now the chef should have access only to the kitchen and the recipe book. The waiter should have access to the orders and the dining area. The cleaning staff should have access to the cleaning supplies and the areas that are needed to be cleaned, and the cashier should have access to the cash register and the reception. Now imagine, what if the cleaning staff has the access of the cash register and by mistake they mandel something and a financial fraud happens? That could take a lot of toll on the restaurant, right? So for that, we have the least privilege access concept, and we give the least privilege or the minimum access to each of the employee in an organization, making sure that nobody intentionally or unintentionally do any harm. By applying this least privilege access principle to our organization, we make sure that the employees have access to only the area and the tools that they need for their job, making sure that we reduce the mistakes, the potential thefts that could occur, accidents, and keeping things smooth. Similarly, in cybersecurity, we give the minimum access to our employees, limiting the potential risk and exposure. Now let's talk about zero trust architecture. In zero trust architecture, in short, if I explain, it's just never trust, always verify. We eliminate the traditional trust factors and we make sure that we verify everything every time. The key concepts of zero trust architecture includes: number one, continuous verification. We make sure to continuously authorize and authenticate the users at each and every point. So let's say you are entering into your Google account. You can open your Gmail by entering your password, maybe your multi-factor authentication codes, and you get the access to your Gmail account. Now you go into your Google account, maybe to edit some settings. Then again you'll have to put in the password. Then again you'll have to go, if you want to go into your passwords or into your recovery settings and change some options there, then again you'll have to put in the password. And if you want to edit those settings, then again you'll have to put in the password. So ultimately you have to continuously verify yourself through each and every stage. Next is microsegmentation. In microsegmentation, we divide this large network of the organization into small parts so that the attacker cannot freely move throughout the system. At third comes the multi-factor authentication. We increase the number of layers in the security authentication and make sure that the user is actually the one who he claims to be. Maybe you can use systems like some authentication tokens, some biometrics, maybe some authenticator apps, or maybe a YubiKey or some physical keys. At fourth, we have monitoring and analysis. We perform real-time analysis of our networks, of our systems to make sure that if any malicious activity is going on, we can detect and stop it. Also, one more concept that we have in zero trust architecture is your least privilege access. We give the minimum access to the organization employees to make sure that they can access only the area that is required for the job to be done. To understand the zero trust architecture better, let's take the example of airport security. In airport security, traditionally, if you identify yourself once, you are able to move through the airport freely. But in the modern world, in the modern airport security, we follow the zero trust architecture for the security purpose. Let's say we have checking at every point, right? So when you enter into the airport, before you enter into the terminal, your ID and your ticket is verified. When you enter for your flight, first there is a security zone where your baggage is checked, then your personal belongings are checked. After that security checkpoint, you're allowed to go to your boarding area where your flight will be waiting for you. At that time also, before you enter into your flight at the gate, your boarding pass is verified again. So there is again level of security checks at every point. Also, there is a specific access for each area. You can only access the area relevant to your flight. Only selected members, crew members can access the baggage and the handling area. And the normal passengers cannot just wander around the cockpit. And we have monitoring throughout. You have security cameras, guards, and automated systems to detect any anomaly or suspicious behaviors and quickly respond to that situation. So in the zero trust architecture, even if you pass the initial security check, you are not fully trusted. Every request to access data or resources is validated, making it harder for the attacker to exploit the system once he is inside the network. So now you must be wondering, what is the difference between the least privilege access and zero trust architecture? Why do we need those both? So least privilege access is about giving your employee the minimum access required, and zero trust architecture is about continuously verifying that access. Also, you can say least privilege access is like asking what access do you need, and zero trust architecture is like asking do you still deserve that access. So this was the third part of our cybersecurity foundation series. Follow for more. Till then, happy learning.